So I guess you might need to start.
It's recording.
Here we go.
We're on the air, everybody. All right. So Carla, my wonderful friend, who I'm so excited is on our call tonight. She and her husband, Kent, live in the Houston, Texas area and enjoy spending time at their house in the country in southeastern Missouri. They have been blessed with 2 children and 3 grandchildren. And after dealing with serious health issues for many years, Carla was brought to a point of having to examine her life, starting with nutrition. She now enjoys renewed health and a life of service. I love that. I love that. Did you hear that, everybody? She enjoys renewed health and a life of service. That's what we have with our business. As a national marketing director with the Juice Plus Company, and I am so glad for you all to hear her story tonight. So go ahead, Carla.
Woo-hoo! Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Let's get this going. Can you see it?
Go for it.
All right. I'm going to take that out and hide this, and let's get going. Hey, Chris and Kimberly, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my heart this evening. You all are a team that is one to be reckoned with, and to be asked to share with you is just such a privilege. So thank you. Thank you. I just want to ask you all a question tonight. Have you ever taken the time to really think about what it means to be an employee versus an entrepreneur, and then what it really truly means to be a leader? I mean, really deep down what it takes. Because we're all business owners, and yet not everyone who owns a business is an entrepreneur or a leader. And tonight we're just going to look at what some of that looks like. Employee versus entrepreneur, and then into leadership. And I'm just going to assume, since you're on this call, that you're a leader because you showed up for this time. And that's kind of the premise of what I'm going to share tonight. It really all boils down to making a decision. And a lot of you know my story of health, so I'm not going to go real deep into it, but I am going to tell you about how I had to make a decision to eat Juice Plus regularly. I have had rheumatoid arthritis and lupus symptoms, and I know you're seeing just this screen right now, but rheumatoid arthritis and lupus symptoms since I was 14. And I have to tell you, my kids grew up. I have 2 kids. Allison Funky is married to Brian, and many of you know her. And then we have a son, Barrett, who's married to Krista. And I have to tell you, Barrett and Allison really grew up with their mom never being well. It was just, I was never well, and that was really hard on them. But it was not only hard on them, but it was hard on my marriage, and it was hard on our finances. And that kind of rocked and rolled along until age 40. In between those years of 14, and then I got married and had kids and struggled. I have to tell you that I tried all sorts of vitamins. I tried herbs. I tried traditional meds. And at age 40, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I settled on traditional meds. And I'm going to do this right now. I settled on traditional meds. And I knew that they had harsh side effects. But I was willing to take that gamble because I didn't know what else to do, and I thought I had tried everything. A friend of mine told me about Juice Plus, and I bought that. And to be very honest, I didn't put any weight in it. I thought it was just another one of those things. And I'm really ashamed to kind of say that today. I bought it, put it in the cabinet, ate it when I kind of thought about it. When I ate it, I took it with Diet Coke, and usually with a donut or my McDonald's run. And my medicine dosages just kept getting upped and up because I got worse and worse. Why? Because I had a lousy diet. I was making really poor choices, and no doctor ever said, "What are you eating or drinking?" They just kept giving me more and more meds. And so we rocked and rolled around like that until about 8 years ago, when I had to go into liver shutdown to finally have my health get my attention. And I finally had to make that decision to live. And Jack, Allison's oldest, was 6 months old. And I had to decide to live, because someone said to me, if this doesn't work out the way we want it to for you all, we'll let Jack know what a great yah you were. Now, I don't know if anybody else is a grandmother on this call. I know Chris and I are, and we would do just about anything for our grandkids, just about anything. And so I opened up my cabinets and I decided to at least give this a shot, because I had tried everything, right? And I cleaned up what I ate. And for 8 years now, I haven't taken anything for rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. I keep it in remission with just really good, healthy living choices. Not perfect, but pretty good, healthy living choices, and a lot of Juice Plus. And I always say Juice Plus isn't what healed my body, but Juice Plus was the fuel that my body needed to do what it was originally designed to do, and that was to heal itself. So let me go into what I wanted to share with you this evening. Can you see my screen? Yes? All right.
Yes, we can.
Great, great. You know, when I finally made that decision to live, I had to realize that nothing that Susie Cruzy was the nurse who shared Juice Plus with me, nothing she could have said to me would have made a difference to that point. It may be that way with our customers. They may forget to eat their Juice Plus or just not be able to get into the habit. And I always have to ask myself, is it really my job to coerce them into making a personal decision to be a regular eater of Juice Plus? Well, I personally don't think so. It's our job to be in relationship with them and to continue to educate them as to the importance of healthy living choices. But if we're convincing them instead of leading them to the facts of the why, you know what? It really doesn't feel good on either side of the equation. And as I said, it's been 8 years now since I decided to give up sodas and McDonald's and donuts. And I'm so grateful to people like Wendy Campbell and Catherine Lee and Dawn Rathman, who told Susie Cruzy about it. And in turn, she was bold enough to share with me, because I'm one of those people that can look in the mirror and say, because of all of them, I'm here, happy and healthy. So you never know when somebody might need to hear that from us. Lots of people are not well. So one thing I do want to share with you, though, is that after getting better, I really had to get used to the new normal. I had been sick most of my life, and I'd been told all sorts of things, you know, like even to the point of going to the doctor with real visible symptoms. And yet when a doctor doesn't know what's wrong with you, they try and help you with something. So they wrote me prescriptions, like for all sorts of anti-inflammatory meds and some antidepressants. And I took those because I was convinced that maybe I was just a little sick mentally too, when in reality I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. But I have to tell you, I was really tired of being judged too. And like I said earlier, nobody really asked me about my diet. They just gave me more and more prescriptions. So my new normal after I got better, it included not having to plan my time around going to several doctor's appointments, either monthly or weekly. Because I had been wired to think of and worry about, what if I can't finish? And oftentimes I had to back out of things that I loved because I just had really poor health. I just had to get used to trusting my body again. And I had to also get used to not spending money on drugs, and that I could really just redirect our drug money for things like Juice Plus. And yet, even though I was better, I still hadn't made the decision about this business. I was skeptical of it because even though I had seen the benefits of this product, I often asked myself, why was I skeptical? I'm being very transparent here because I think there may be other people out there just like I was. You know, I've owned a couple of businesses, really successful ones, but to be honest, I didn't own them. They kind of owned me. And I had to be my own employee when I owned my own business. I was just trading time for money. The only difference between me and an employee was that I was the one writing myself a paycheck. And I don't mean for this to be offensive to any of you, but I really, when looking at this business, just didn't want to be a prostitute to my own business again. You know, after I got better, I had a pretty firm belief in the product because of my own health story, but Apparently I didn't have enough of one for everyone, so much so that I didn't even share Juice Plus with my dad who had cancer. I didn't make him eat Juice Plus. He knew that I ate it, but for some reason I didn't share it with him. And I have to live with that decision that I made not to share with him. I live with that every day. Now, my belief in this business, it just had to be built. And I still had to make the decision for myself that this was the right place for me, because no one could do that for me. We can want it for people, but we can't make that decision for others. So it's all about personally making a decision and flipping the switch as to what's important for us and our teams and for themselves. And for me, that first decision came when I went to an event. It's the power of events. I saw the culture in the community, and our sweet daughter, Allison, said, "Mom, you're more like yourself than I've seen you in years." So I decided to give this business a try, and I joined this business, and I found a home. But I still had to have my belief deepened. I kind of laugh because I must be sounding pretty stubborn at this point, but I was just tired and skeptical, and I didn't want to get hurt again. Sound familiar to anyone? I've got to be honest, I used to see calls and touch points as extra, the things I had to do and not really what I get to do. But then again, I think about it with touch points and things, who gets to go to work and not have check-ins? These opportunities are here for us to build community and to learn and enjoy one another. And I believe that it's our job as leaders to make these opportunities available and for them to be valuable. And this is a new concept for someone who's been a sole owner of a business as I was. You just don't understand that. You don't understand about team because you're not used to working like that. So I fast-tracked to sales coordinator, and I sat there a while, and I didn't really know what to do. I was stuck. But if you'd asked me if I was stuck, I would have said, nope, not at all. I'm not stuck. Until I have to be very honest here. Kent came in one day, and he's in the oil and gas industry, which is a very volatile industry at best. And this is what he said to me. He said, "Carla, you're chronologically, you just don't have as much time as younger people in life to make this work. We're going to need those benefits for you after I retire. Because you see, I've been told by the insurance industry that even though I was better because of my health history, and friends, your health history doesn't go away. I was told that I was uninsurable." And now this was before the Affordable Care Act. So I had to make a decision to really flip the switch. And I had to say, let's do this. And in retrospect, I had to understand that I was maybe just a little too comfortable with my little paycheck. I was too comfortable because we didn't need that paycheck to eat. And what I didn't realize is there are a lot of people that need this paycheck to help just keep the lights on or to save their house. And we all know Kimberly's story. So I had to realize I was just being selfish by not working my business and sharing this opportunity with others. People join our business for several reasons. Maybe it's for money. Maybe it's for the passion of sharing the product with others. Maybe it's the community. Maybe it's just something for themselves. So whatever it is for you, I just want to encourage you just to own it. Because one thing that really I've come to appreciate is that I just have to accept people where they are. And it's not my responsibility to drag them along. Wendy Campbell always says, we love people where they are, whether they do a little or a lot. And in all of this, I think that sometimes people are just afraid to commit because they know that they're just not perfect. Well, that's all of us, right? Isn't it amazing that none of us is, and that we're surrounded, though, by caring and loving and forgiving imperfect people? And it's okay to be in learning mode here. There are lots of avenues that we could go on from here, but I just want to touch on a few here. And I, first of all, want to look at when I decided to be a business owner again, what it meant to be an entrepreneur instead of an employee. First of all, I have a whiteboard in my office, and it says this, what you see here on the screen. Employees have to be told how, entrepreneurs find a way. And to me, that doesn't mean that we go rogue and we don't ask anyone for help, friends. That what it means to me is that as a leader, you don't have to have your hand held in every process. You know, Jay Martin tells us to go find a buddy. It's just more fun with a buddy. They have someone to walk with. And corporate's really given us tools that are simple and proven, haven't they? Another, though, difference between being an employee and an entrepreneur is that employees strive to be perfectionists. And oftentimes being a perfectionist is just focusing on what's wrong instead of right. Employees are constantly, they're under the watchful eye of their bosses, and that makes them want to strive for perfection, and oftentimes it makes them less productive. Think about that. Entrepreneurs, though, they focus on weaknesses as futile. Instead, they draw on their strengths and they know they don't have to be perfect. Entrepreneurs focus on producing because isn't it better to create than to not have created at all? It's all about, you know, Don Rathmama says, planning it, doing it, and getting better at it. Okay, so the next difference is between an employee and an entrepreneur is that entrepreneurs say no to some opportunities and employees embrace all opportunities. Warren Buffett's been quoted to say that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But think about this. Entrepreneurs, they flex their no muscle more often and they maintain their focus on what matters. Employees, though, they say yes to everything because of FOMO, because of the fear of missing out, and the fear of saying that if they say no to an opportunity, they're going to miss out on some big break. Now, this doesn't mean that entrepreneurs don't take risks, but for some reason, some people won't start businesses and work their businesses because they're attached and they need the security of their JOBs. Well, entrepreneurs know that some risks are worth it. We just have to be discerning about what we focus on, what we spend our time on. The next difference is that entrepreneurs monotask while employees try to multitask. You know, Dawn has taught us that on our team that there's no such thing as multitasking. Despite what employers think they want, this statement is true, and studies show that it's impossible for our brains to focus effectively on more than one thing at a time. And entrepreneurs, they recognize that multitasking means doing nothing well, so they monotask instead of that. Employees, though, are trained to worship multitasking, and they beat themselves up then when their brains just won't cooperate. Kind of interesting, huh? Entrepreneurs versus employees, they believe in seasons, while employees believe in perfect balance. This sounds kind of counterproductive. We need balance. But if you're going for a goal and you're not willing to say, hey, those dishes can wait, you'll always be doing dishes. I love when Wendy Campbell tells us just go out and make enough money so that someone else can wash your dishes and clean your house. The next difference between an employee and an entrepreneur is that they know when they can surge and solidify. And this is one thing that I've learned from Dawn. And yes, I do quote her a lot because she's a brilliant business mind. You can't be in constant surge mode, but you just can't sit and wait for the perfect time either. And I just want to talk briefly about the work-life balance. That's every employee's most coveted dream. That's the most sought-after treasure. But entrepreneurs that know that perfect balance isn't achievable, instead of seeking balance, they really believe that in order to excel in one area of their lives, other parts are going to suffer. But maybe having a perfectly organized office isn't the most important thing. And that's what I mean by that. You know, entrepreneurs accept that areas of lives rotate through seasons. And instead of fighting for an unachievable balance, they recognize that one thing's always just going to have to take precedence over the other. All right, here's a big one. Smarter people. Employees are threatened by smarter people, and entrepreneurs, they hire them. You know, in the corporate world, It's just survival of the fittest. And if you're not the smartest, most well-connected, or hardest working person, you're stuck at the bottom of the rung of the ladder more than likely. Employees, therefore, they're threatened by those who are smarter than they are, and they view smarter guys as competition. Now, we, on the other hand, as entrepreneurs, we hire those people. Those are the people we're hiring, pulling into our teams, right? We aren't threatened. We know that we need to bring other gifts to the table. And I love when Kent Grebing explained to me that if you're a 7 or an 8, go out and hire a 9 or a 10. Don't be afraid that you can't be everything to everyone. That's the beauty of a team. It's the beauty of what we do. People with an entrepreneurial mindset, they often attract other successful people, and especially those with awesome energy, don't they? You know, I heard Kerry Daigle speak at the San Antonio Summit a few weeks ago, and he said that egos will keep you broke. Well, this is really, to me, about a lack of focus, and that's many times based on egos getting in the way of really just self-examining things, using good discernment. And if we're focused on perfection and all the new bright shiny things out there, or whether somebody else is smarter or not, you will lose focus. The number one pitfall of our business is a loss of focus. So I'm going to ask you, what are you focusing on? Who are you focusing on? Focus is actually caring for others. So I just want to ask you real quickly, do you care about others? Because this is a relationship business. Every number on our 12-month analysis and our PVC report, they stand for a relationship. So first of all, with our customers, that's column 6 of our PVC report. I know you all have heard the 645 talk that Dawn's done. I look at that and I'm like, how many do I have and how am I taking care of them? And our team, well, that's how am I building my team frontline to me, and that's column 4 of your PVC report. And how am I supporting my team and building their teams? To me, that's what column 5 on our PVC reports, that's what that's all about. If we're looking at our numbers, we're focusing on people. And if you're not, and this is my opinion, but I don't think you're basically caring for others. And if you think you're just not a numbers person, I'd suggest that if you want to be a leader, that you learn to embrace just the basics of that. You know, the tools that we've been given, they all have purpose. Because as a business owner, business owners plan and they forecast and they track and they do examine numbers. They look at profits. Because companies that don't do that, they don't keep their doors open. Otherwise, it's just kind of called a charity. But even charities have to look at donations and numbers because they have to look at that in order to serve people that they've opened their doors to actually help. But I do want to step back and ask you this. Do you realize that you can own a business and still not be a leader? Not all owners are entrepreneurs. And not all entrepreneurs are leaders. So we're going to look at a couple definitions here to maybe help walk us through this. Let's look at leadership first. Leadership, and I really love this definition, it's described as the process of social influence in which one person can enlist the aid and support of others in the accomplishment of a common task. It's a little contagious, isn't it? That's kind of what we're doing in our businesses, right? We're putting more fruits and vegetables and berries in capsules in other people's lives when we come together and we influence others to do that very same thing. Now let's look at entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the act of being an entrepreneur, which can be defined as one who undertakes innovations, finance, and business acumen in an effort to transform innovations into economic goods. Entrepreneurs, we basically undertake things. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does make a difference. Now, let's talk about what this all really means. A successful entrepreneur doesn't necessarily have to be a good leader, as long as they recognize how they deliver the greatest value to the organization. And if they can successfully execute on that. You know, a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they've hired up, like we discussed earlier, and they've learned to delegate to others. However, I believe that a successful leader must be entrepreneurial as well as innovative. And they need to take innovations and build on those things so that you can have more and more social influence. I believe that flipping the switch to being a leader is where we all kind of want to land. Now, I started all of this by saying, and I'll say it again, the number one pitfall in our business is a loss of focus. So, what focus qualities do leaders show? And I'm going to finish up tonight by just sharing how Stephen Covey took the 7 habits of highly effective people, and he taught people how to apply those to leadership. His teaching on applying the 7 habits of highly effective people, these 7 points, this is how they focus on leadership. So it's not his original 7 points, it's how he focused on leadership. Number 1, we need to value the important over the urgent. Because running around like your hair on fire keeps you focused on running around and not completing what's most important. I do my best to avoid that crazy busy mentality. And it really hurts me when one of my team members will start a conversation by saying, hey, I know you're really busy, but am I making what I do look attractive to others? Because who wants to follow someone who's running around with their hair on fire, right? Number 2, focus on what matters most. We're in the relationship business. It's all about people. We're in the people business. It's people that matter most, and make all the other things leaders focus on. That's what's necessary. I think that we as leaders may find that it's selfish sometimes to be going over a goal just if it's all about you, if you're sacrificing relationships with people in the process. And this isn't just for team members. What about customers? We just talked about focusing on what matters most. And I always kind of think back and examine, have I put myself in their shoes recently? Have I really taken time to sit back and listen to my customers? Number 3, seek first to understand those you lead, because we all have different personalities and preferences. And it's one thing to know that we're different, but it's really quite another to seek to understand those differences. If you seek to recognize those differences, no one's going to be difficult. They're just going to be different, and that's how God made us. And that's certainly acceptable. And I just want to add that if you're willing to say you're sorry when you haven't been accepting of people, say you're sorry. Because in the end, it is all about relationships, isn't it? Number 4, sharpening the saw. What are you doing daily to develop your character, your confidence, your skills, your relationships with those you lead? And are you willing to self-study and keep learning? Are you doing things for your team to support their efforts and growth in their businesses, or is it really all about you? Those blades of the saw, they can be sharpened through calls, team trainings, and personal development. And we all know how vital good personal development is. If that's really ignored, it's going to be difficult to get that job done. Think about it. Have you ever used an unsharp saw? They're not much fun to use. Number 5, begin with the end in mind, because we know there's value in setting and having goals, but the greater value is leading those goals to fruition. And that comes from vision, because without vision, people can't follow you. And if you don't have a vision for where you want to go, if you can't make people see what the path is, there's not going to be a lot of confidence there, whether it's in you or the path. So we as leaders were challenged to dig down deep and figure out where you want to go and what your vision is for that path, and not just react and respond. And if we're confused about our path, our teams aren't going to know which path to hop on, and they certainly won't move down a positive road with us. And that's what we want, right? 6, remember someday is not a date on the calendar. What's your calendar look like? Because leaders who overload and then procrastinate, they often say they're going to get to it someday. It simply doesn't exist. So I'm going to encourage you to be a model for the well-being that you wish to see in those that you lead. And yes, some things may not get done, dishes, cleaning, but just take time to prioritize what's really effective. And lastly, be proactive. Think ahead when it comes to a customer's needs or your team's needs. Your success as a leader depends on you celebrating what's done well, staying present with what the team's doing now, and looking ahead by planning and looking at numbers to see what you're going to need to lead into the future. You know, a lot of what we've talked about tonight is about focus. And the focus on whether you're an employee, an entrepreneurial leader, and the difference of all of those different types of people is what they focus on, isn't it? Other people or other things or themselves. So my personal focus is to be a leader by example, and that I continue to share and learn, that I continue to share whole food nutrition with people. But it's also to learn to continue to lead, because I want to be a good example. I just want to challenge you to ask yourself, and I want you to chew on this a while. Have a conversation with a trusted mentor about your qualities and where you see yourself and where they want to see you. Take time to examine that. This is all really personal to me because I'm really sick and tired of hearing people with cancer and heart disease and kids who struggle because of maybe a nutritional hole in their diets. And we really need strong leaders to share this message. You know, this was driven home to me about not being bold and about not being a strong enough leader. A few weeks ago, I lost a friend from my small group Bible study. She had a brain aneurysm. She didn't know about it. She was thin, but she was a breast cancer survivor. And at our Bible study group, we're not able to talk about what we do. And so one day she kind of asked me about it. And I have to be honest, I kind of danced around it. And I kind of just said, well, yeah, I'll talk, and I'll invite you to an event. Because David Phillips was going to be in town. And what better perfect person to have her here, right? Well, guess what? I never got the chance to invite her. And now she has 4 kids that are never going to know. Her little grandchild's never going to know her Mimi. And I'm not saying that I could change things, but it certainly drove it home that I'm going to be a lot bolder with things. So I just want you to kind of ask yourself, who's worth becoming a leader for? Who's going to be able to look at you someday and say, because of you, I can stand here today? So Chris, Kimberly, thank you so much for just letting me share my heart here. I get a little passionate about what this all means, and thank you for hearing my story. But also, I just want to encourage us to be the best leaders we can possibly be.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Carla. That was awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
We appreciate you being on. And I am going to stop the recording and unmute everybody